All right, welcome and thank you everyone for joining us for another Twitter Space. Today is November 17th, 2022, and this is episode 76 of the ledgerscale Internet of Value Open Forum. Now, ledgerscale Foundation was founded with two goals in mind. One, we want to provide educational services to not only our community, but to help scale up the number of brains that understand distributed ledger in all of the digital asset community. And two, we intend to one day run hardware not only on the XRP ledger, as we do have a validator already, but on all of the distributed ledger technology networks that we believe are ESG friendly and running a form of decentralized consensus. We host these spaces Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, starting at 3:30 Eastern Standard Time. And on Wednesday, we host a focus topic space from 5 to 6 Eastern Standard Time. And if I could just ask if everyone could give us a follow on Twitter at ledgerscale, turn those notifications on so you know we're going live. And as well as at the bottom right, we have the bubble today. So if everyone could hit that and like and retweet the space so that hopefully other people can listen to this space in the future and find this information valuable.
Yeah, so we're here essentially to engage the community. So please, if anybody has a question, raise your hand. If you're curious about it, I guarantee you someone else is. Just be cordial if you do speak up, and it's an open forum, so we encourage everybody to speak up. And welcome to the space. Thanks for joining.
How you doing today, Karma?
Yeah, good. I'm hoping somebody shows up in here. He's at Swell, and he was talking to Stuart Alderati, the GC for Ripple, about the case. And I'd rather, if he shows up, let him explain what how the conversation went. But it was interesting. I wish I could go to Swell, but that's all the way over in London. So that's a little bit more of a travel plan than, New Orleans or Vegas. Hopefully I'll get to it.
As well as I think it would be over by the time you got there.
Yeah. It was right on the heels of the Interledger conference. I thought that was a little odd because some of those same people, like I would think Stefan would want to be there.
Well, so for them, to go from one place to the next, nice.
Well, yeah, I mean, you'd almost have to. I mean, you'd have to leave New Orleans and go straight to London. Otherwise, you'd miss it.
You also get to go around the world. So I mean, that's depends on the perspective.
You what?
You get to travel around the world.
Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. I didn't really hardly leave the hotel. I mean, we were doing stuff the whole time I was there. That was the disappointing thing with the hurricane. I was going to go out there a day and a half early so I could go see New Orleans, but because of the hurricane, I was only there for the conference, and so I was at the conference. So I'm gonna have to go back to New Orleans someday. But still, it was a lot of fun. I'd like to see. I've seen clips, but I don't know. They seem on the Swell thing to delay releasing the videos for several months for some reason. but I'd like to see the videos and presentations and everything.
Because they'll doctor them, right? They'll cut things that that they don't seem fit. It's unfortunate. I applied. They didn't give me permission to watch either this year. Some people they did.
Oh, you could apply to watch? I didn't know that.
Yeah, there was some live things.
Huh.
Man, I get denied every year though, so I'm gonna try again though next year.
Well, I don't know what the rationale behind that kind of decision would be. I've never had to make that kind of decision, so I don't even know what you would consider. I would think if, I mean, it is like a marketing PR event. I would think you'd want more people, but only do want a certain number of people, especially with the amount of hate and stuff that gets thrown at Ripple.
I think that's probably mostly it.
It's unfortunate that things have unfolded the way that in that way. I don't think it's really good for anybody, but it is what it is at this point. So there was a guy that I went to dinner with in New Orleans who's kind of like a hardware guy, and he was explaining to me a little more about what was going on with a piece of hardware that only has one more chance to try and get the secret key right to do a transaction to get the value off of it, or it'll self-destruct. The hardware device is designed in this way. It's like military grade, and there's ways to like short circuit it, but you've got to get to the circuits, but it's covered in epoxy, so you can't get to the circuits. It was pretty interesting. I mean, there was some outside of the presentations at the Interledger, like there was just some interesting side conversations.
So it was totally Mission Impossible style. It just self-destructs.
Yeah, it's got one more chance, and then it's over. If you get it right, everything's all good. If you get it wrong, it's just going to delete itself. And he was telling me like there's things you can do to take the epoxy off, but you got to be careful not to, I don't know, burn up the circuits. I'm sure I'm using the wrong words, but I mean, this stuff's way over my head. But yeah, it's and there's a reasonable amount of money on there, so yeah, it was interesting.
Kind of wonder if there's like a little like loop that if it does do that, somehow it kind of defaults back to like the main treasury or something, or it just gets black holed.
I think the device just wipes its memory, and it's just gone.
Yeah.
The key pair's gone. Right? Like it's gone. You don't have the key pair anymore. So I mean, you can try and brute force it at that point. That's your last yeah, that's it. Like, and if you could brute force it, then none of crypto would be viable or valuable, or any wouldn't be viable. The whole primage that the entire industry is based on is the fact that you can't brute force a key pair.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is like if there is like a 3 strikes and you're out, and you're in the system basically, right? You're attached to a PC, like it's connected to what, Ledger?
No, this is like a hardware wallet.
Okay, so the hardware wallet has to be plugged into a computer, which is plugged into the the internet, right? So there's some kind of record,
No.
basically, like after 3. What? So you're just plugging it into what?
Well, no, the device itself can keep track on its own self, right? It can keep track that, like, failed attempt 1, failed attempt 2, failed attempt 3. You know, you hit 5, we're going to delete the device because obviously someone's trying to hack it.
Is there a way to still like log in some other way?
No.
Okay, so that money just disappears, or that coin disappears.
Yes.
Okay, so you
Well,
don't think that it
coin
was like
doesn't
built into the
disappear, but
system that it would just go back into the main account somehow?
No, so that's the whole point to it. Like, I mean, so like the coins are still there, or the tokens are actually still there, but trying to be able to actually access them past that point, I mean, you don't really have there's no other way to be able to access it. So once again, you're talking about the so the hardware wallet or whichever it's going to be actually has access. It lets you access those tokens on the actual, like, the mainnet or whatever you want to be able to call it, on the ledger. But once you lose the access to that from that hardware wallet, you just can't access them again. So no one can access them because you're the last one that actually had the access key to those tokens.
Well, that seems stupid. They should have made some kind of thing where that could have gone to like a charity or something.
It's self-custody. I mean, you can't. If you lose your keys, goodbye. They're gone. I mean, and in fact, if you could get an accurate account of all the wallets that have been lost, because like I got a buddy who's lost a wallet from back in the early days of XRP when he was doing computing for good, because I told him about it, and he can't find his keys. Like, those XRP are technically calculated into circulating supply. They're not circulating; they're gone. Like, they're gone. They're out of circulation permanently. He's not going to find his wallet. The computer he did it on is gone. You know, this is years ago. He's moved on. But whatever, I don't even know how much it is. He didn't even know his public wallet key. Like, it's not like he doesn't know his private key. He doesn't know anything.
I understand what you're saying. Like I like totally get it. But if I were the person that designed it, I would have made it so that there was like a fail safe that at least it wasn't just burned. It because if it's still being counted, at least it could go to some kind of use case like helping the poor, or I don't know.
it would be the same thing if you like lost your seed phrase for your wallet, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the key pair, so the device creates the key offline, and so until we have quantum computing that could be able to break that, right? Basically, because you've done a transaction with the public key. If you did a transaction with the public key, that is too, right? If you never did a transaction with a blockchain, then it not only is it quantum resistant, but then yeah, you lost your keys and it's probably gone forever, right? Until not even until we have quantum computing.
And even on that point as well, I mean, there'd be a lot of Ethereum wallets and Bitcoin wallets and all kinds of stuff that we still think's in circulation, where in reality, like, there'd be a lot of people in the early days when they picked them up for so cheap and didn't really think they were going to be, a massive big thing. And yeah, those hardware wallets are either gone, they don't have their details. There'd be near on billions of dollars, at the top of the market that has just been lost into the ether forever.
Yeah, it'd be. I don't know how you could account for that. I mean, I guess you could do some sort of maybe survey or somehow. I don't know how you would even do that. Like, you could. I was thinking maybe you could do like do polling, and like do some statistics and say, okay, this percentage of wallets are probably lost, and I mean, this is a considerable sum of Bitcoin. It's got, you know, this anyway. Like, it's people. Yeah, it is what it is. It was just interesting to hear the hardware side of the story because I didn't know about all the I mean, it makes sense. You cover it with epoxy so you can't tamper with the circuits of the hardware. Like, this makes sense. I get it. I mean, it's over my head, but I can sort of follow along, I guess, is probably a better way to put it. It's just interesting. There's so many smart people out there.
Actually, just talking on smart people out there, did anyone catch John Deaton's amicus brief that was read out by FRPP? I caught that this morning, and wow, man, like, yeah, talk about laying some smart information down on the line.
No, I didn't see where was that?
It was like an hour before space.
An hour before this space?
Yeah, maybe 2 hours before space it started, I should say. It ended about an hour or so before.
Was it like a YouTube video?
No, it was XRPP. He hosted a space. XRPP. God, man. Oh, he's funny. He's a good guy.
Oh, no, I would have joined if I'd known that. No, I didn't see that.
I can attach it to the top. I tweeted it out, and it's been recorded as well. So now anyone can listen to it as well. So I'll grab that up in a minute, and you can listen to it whenever you like because it's now recorded for posterity as well. So,
What do you mind sharing some of the highlights?
yeah. Well, I mean, it's basically going back to what's been previously spoken about in every conversation of the litigation on like XRP and Ripple and things like that. The finality of the decision that the SEC's taken to be able to go for all transactions of XRP, whether it be in the future or in the past or present or whatever, that they all sit underneath the purview of being a security transaction, and it basically just rips apart what the SEC's done in this kind of a case. I mean, he doesn't go into any of um, you know, the bad things that have happened within the SEC as actually being a governing body and stuff like that. But he does really just hit home about the fact that that everything that Ripple has done and the way that the litigation's been, pushed forward is asinine. It doesn't really make any sense. He does also touch on the fact that they're looking for a power grab for the SEC. He doesn't go into the future use, depending on obviously what its future use is going to be, because he's not 100% sure. But yeah, it was a very well worded piece, very straight to the point, easy to be able to read, or easy to be able to listen to. I'm sure it'd be easy to be able to read, and just all around, just a great piece of literature that could be put in front of a judge to be able to prove its point.
Well, that's cool. I'm hoping he shows up in here. I don't see him yet, but he said he'd swing by. But the guy that was at Swell, he was saying that the GC basically was like, we could settle at any time, but they're going to have to capitulate and say that XRP is not a security, or we're not settling. Just period.
Well, from what XRPP was reading out, the judge listening to that or reading that information that John Deaton's put out, without some kind of government push towards the judge to be able to make an inverse decision on what would be right and fair for the public and also for Ripple and XRP as being a token. You really couldn't see that as being a security the way that he wrote it out. I will attach it to the top, and I do suggest everyone listens to it. it was very plain, clear, and concise on the direction that the judge should take to it without being pushy as well. So, I mean, I think we all know that the decision from the SEC to be able to actually push this, push this thing through has been quite deliberate. Whether it be, outsider pressure from, banks or whoever the parties may be, it really doesn't make sense for them to be able to litigate this situation. And just to be able to add on to that as well, I just noticed a thing from Darren Moore Jr. this morning, like Fame 21 More. I think it was a couple of years ago that the G20 summit basically set all these laws out in the first place. Like they came to some kind of consensus to be able to actually say what, like cryptocurrencies are going to be and CVCs and things like that. They set this out 2 years ago, and the rest of the world is actually fine with it. Then they're not concerned about like Ripple or XRP. But the only country in the whole entire world so far that's sitting on its hands has been the US. And looking into a little bit more of the details he's bringing up, like the WEF has basically stated that, the way that the US dollar setting is the international dollar for exchange at the moment is coming to an end. And it's down to these factors as well. So it leads me to be able to believe that this has actually been a push from the government of the US to be able to sort of hold XRP to this point that we're at the moment. I mean, I could be wrong, but that's my own personal views.
Yeah, and if anybody in the audience wants to come up, has any other questions or any topics about anything having to do with the Internet of Value, please feel free to hit the request and come up and hang out and speak with us. Sorry, go ahead, Karma.
No, I was actually I lost my point. I was going to say when we were in the chat yesterday with Deaton and Solomon's chat, I tried to make the point that this is just a matter of personal experience. When I bought XRP, I never had an interaction with Ripple in any way, shape, or form. I went to SnapSwap. Actually, I went to Bank of America. I deposited $100 into SnapSwap. They gave me $100 on the XRP ledger, right? So SnapSwap was not like acting as an exchange like a Coinbase or a Kraken or a FTX or anything. I gave them $100. They gave me $100. Just on I put the $100 in the bank. They put the $100 on the ledger. That was it, right? Then, of my own free will, I chose to use the DEX, decentralized exchange on Ledger, and exchange that $100 for dollars, or sorry, for XRP. Like, no, Ripple never had anything. There was no. I mean, SnapSwap didn't even have anything to do with me acquiring XRP. I mean, well, okay, no. In fairness, I think because they created an address, a wallet for me, so that they could put the $100 issued asset, in the wallet, because the wallet has to exist. I think they put 50 XRP in there. So they gave me a little bit of XRP to meet the reserve, which was 20 back then, and I think trust lines were 5. So they essentially gave me an extra 25 XRP for transaction fees and stuff, and the $100 that I deposited. That's it. There was no, like, to me, that is just not a securities issuance. Versus when Ethereum, and I'm not trying to rag on Ethereum, but this is just factual. When Ethereum went to do their ICO, the whole thing just smelled like a security. I mean, it was like, hey, give us this money. Now, they were collecting the money in Bitcoin. So, granted, it wasn't in dollars. So you could make an argument there that maybe the U.S. doesn't have jurisdiction because it wasn't in dollars, but it did involve U.S. citizens. The whole way the situation worked was way, way, way more like a securities offering, and to the point where I didn't, I thought about this, to be honest, because I had understood what was. I mean, I thought it would be, I thought the technology was going to be successful, but the way it was being done, I just gave me a lot of concern. And yeah, it just totally, completely different, completely different. And the XRP ledger was already up and running. The Ethereum ICO, they didn't even have the thing built yet. That ignores the fact that they took two of the key ideas from Ripple, but whatever. Totally, totally, totally different. And it's weird to see the way things have unfolded from a legal. Actually, one of my partners was just messaging me before this call about some unrelated stuff, but she's a securities attorney and she's like brilliant. And she's even sent me stuff about this Ripple case that she's gotten from some of her law journals. And granted, the legal journals are a little behind the times, but even in the legal journals, they're like, dude, this case doesn't make any sense. Like, this is odd at best.
I personally think that I mean, as much as I wish that it sort of never happened, but I mean, I understand what the SEC has done to be able to hold up Ripple and XRP for their own reasons. There's been a lot of chat from all over the world um, looking for change out of the system that we're in at the moment. And I'm not saying deleting Fed or anything like that, but changing the way that we obviously do banking across the world. There's been a huge call for it. And unfortunately, at this stage, I mean, there's so much pressure that's going on around the world from things that, like, Ponzi wars, all this kind of, oh, sorry, proxy wars, not Ponzi wars. I mean, you could call it a Ponzi war if you really wanted to. But there's a lot of political hardship that's going on around the world at the moment. And it's actually just been forced upon us to be able to be this way. One thing that it definitely does is it does slow down innovations because without having clarity out there in the market and actually having, some good money being thrown around the world to be able to continue up, international trade and things like that. The smoke and mirrors and lies and deceit from all members of all countries. This isn't just one player. It's a jostling for position for what's going to happen in the future, and I'm sure that these major countries are aware that the change is coming and the change is coming quickly, and cryptocurrency will definitely, or cryptography at the end of the day is going to be able to change the way that we do business. And I mean, we discuss this all the time. I mean, the legacy system definitely does want to be there at the forefront of this change because they don't want to be left behind. But unfortunately, their systems just don't work as well as what these new ones do. And it shouldn't be about the war between the legacy system and these new systems either, because the new technology intertwined with the legacy system will just make everything better as well. Unfortunately, people just don't see it that way yet.
No, I think you're dead right. The like, look at the tiger beetle thing. I mean, if you can, I was shocked. The most shocking thing of that presentation was how slow the incumbent systems operate. Like, are you kidding me? Really? That's how slow they are? Like, I mean, I'm just taking him for his word. I don't have any way to fact check him, but I'm assuming he's not full of it. If there's a database that can run what, like 1,000 times faster, of course. Why wouldn't you use that? I mean, what do you want? Like a, you know, car that doesn't operate versus like a Ferrari? Like, are you, what? I just, it's the incumbents, and the incumbents have all the knowledge, the regulatory capacity. They have, most importantly, the networks, with all the other banks and incumbents. Like, to dismantle all of that would be a fool's errand. Like, why would you do that? That would make no sense. So it's not like the incumbents are going to disappear or anything. But a technology upgrade is. I mean, there's seriously some of these companies that are running technology from the 70s. Swift is from the 70s. Like, I guess the 70s was the last time we had a real technology upgrade. Swift is from the 70s, so there's your monetary infrastructure technology. I just lost like the AS400s and the mainframes, like that stuff's like from the 70s. A lot of these companies are still using those systems. Like, I mean, it's time, that's 50 years ago. Like, and in technology terms, that's like 3 eternities. It is kind of a head scratcher that these big companies are still using these systems. It more to me speaks of an attitude of risk aversion, and I'm all about not taking risk. So, it's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. But
By the way,
there are.
Karma, do you know how many money is there that's flow through Swift every year? I have heard it, but I have forgot because I saw Ripple earlier today was tweeting that they are planning to reach 156 trillion by the end of the year in flow transaction. That's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the digital asset investor guy says, like, it's literally all the money. Like, yeah. that's the system.
Well, just through the Swift network, and this might have been outdated from probably about 6 months ago or so, but just on an average day, Swift does $5 trillion worth of transactions per day. So, I mean, you bring that out to the rest of the systems that don't run on Swift as well, and there is huge money markets out there that do, like, probably not the same in volume for one single center, but if you put that with all the smaller systems out there, I couldn't equate to the value on it.
Well, and that doesn't even count. So once we have the Internet of Value, and we can do like interledger protocol, and we can do, micro payments as fast as 2 machines can communicate with each other, the volume of the transaction volume is going to exponentially increase. I mean, that's just a given as far as I'm concerned. Like, imagine you can have one API pay another API every time they communicate or share or connect or share information or what have you. This is difficult now. Um, essentially, it's done through like a batch processing flow. Like I go ahead and pre-fund. I throw $100 into the account. They charge me, sometimes it's a half a penny, a quarter penny. It depends on the transaction type. They charge me, whatever they charge me. And then when my balance gets below a certain threshold, I refund the account. But that's 2 transactions, right? First pre-fund and then refunding the account. So that's essentially batching all of those hundreds of transactions that were a quarter penny or half a penny or half a penny, and etc. Um, you go to Internet of Value, those two APIs, every time they charge me a quarter penny or a half a penny, then I don't have to pre-fund it. I just pay them like now. And so the number of transactions is going to go up significantly. Like right now,
Astronomically,
that what?
astronomically, it's unfathomable how many transactions will be occurring.
Oh, it's going to be exponentially higher, and that's the machine-to-machine payments. So the thing is, right now, all of those micro payments, that company has to, like my vendor, they are accounting for all of that on their accounting system, their treasury and what have you. If they can get that off of, this is just an additional benefit. If they can not have to like manage that process, and they can just like send me a bill for a quarter penny and I just send them a quarter penny, they don't have to like deal with all that process. They don't have to manage it. They don't have to keep the books. It doesn't matter. Did the guy give me the quarter penny? Yes. Okay. Then service the API call. Did the guy not give me the quarter penny? No. Okay. Don't service the API call. That's it. All the accounting BS that they're having to keep track of with the pre-funding and all this stuff, all that work is out of their hair. They don't have to deal with it anymore. Treasury departments are going to get gutted by this technology, by the way. Nobody really talks about that, but they will.
Can I add a bit of a theory to like where we're sort of at the moment? If anyone wants to listen, or
Yeah, go ahead, Alex.
well, you know that Mario dude that's been running this space for like 4 days with 10,000 plus bots in there and all this kind of thing. That I listened into a little bit of that just about to get some insider stuff for what was going on with FTX and things like that. But there's a guy by the name of Kim.com that was on there. And he put out the question to the rest of the board there saying, what do you see as the biggest financial risk that we have in the next 5 years? And everyone put out their answers. And this is something that I've actually been thinking for quite some time as well. When we start talking about market share of how the US dollar runs, and obviously being the international dollar for exchange and the whole works, and then we start looking like how the BRICS nations are starting to be able to move away from that pairing. Now, the the debt that the US is trying to be able to pay at the moment from the $30 trillion worth of debt that they've got themselves in at the moment, to be able to service that debt, if there was 25 or 30% of the world's economy was not running on the US dollar anymore, surely they wouldn't be able to service that debt anymore. Does that sort of make sense?
Yeah, but the rest of the world has just as much, if not more, debt than us. We're in this position where we can create as much debt as we really want, and it damages the rest of the world more than it hurts us. And so, yeah, if there was this, I would think, uh, agreement to stop using the dollar, right, and it loses its power so much. I don't know if it inherently makes it more difficult to print the debt, right? Because we could just, to pay off the debt, because essentially you could just print the debt away, right? It's right, value is just a opinion, money is just a tool. So it's based on future value, right? And so that future value still may lie there, right? There may be technological advancements that come out that our species agrees that value is there. So yeah, I don't know if
I'm sorry, I missed what was the question? It sounded
Well,
like a question for me, honestly.
Well, I mean, I was speaking to the the processing of like the US debt ceiling, which is about that 30 trillion dollars or whichever it is. Now, if you've got 30% of that market share has been taken away by BRICS nations, or even to a higher point, that free trade across crypto or CVCs or whichever gets used, then the US government trying to be able to service their debt won't be able to keep up with the actual, the debt ceiling. Obviously, that will just continuously rise as well. And the way that I'm sort of looking at this situation is the idea of the walled gardens situation too. So once it goes to, say, if it does go to like a free trade dollar or a free trade cryptocurrency or whatever that may be, those walled gardens will actually, as much as they're interoperable with each other, and that's what the incentive value is supposed to be about, because it doesn't have one central group that outlays the inflation rates, how everything's going and changing those markets. Inherently, that has been manipulated for hundreds and hundreds of years. They've just got more technology advances going through it. I just see that the debt that the US has at the moment, whether it be to itself or to other countries, would just keep rising once they can't service that debt.
So you're describing the Triffin dilemma, which is the negative side of the double-edged sword of a country being the global reserve. Yeah, it unfolds over time. But yeah, look up that TRIFFIN. That's what you're describing.
Right.
And what's that?
Right, but like how to what he was saying though, right? In the end, I don't think it poses a risk long term as right in a economic international setting. As of right now, it damages the rest of the world more than it damages us. And for that to change, even if the people of the world stopped using the dollar as the majority, there are still a lot of reasons why we would still have the value flow going through the United States, in my opinion. And so I don't think there's I think anything, there's only going to be more debt creation over time, and that's internationally, personally.
Yeah, there'll be more debt creation. That's fine. It's just is what it is. The servicing of the debt, half of it'll probably, well, a chunk of it'll be paid back with inflation. A lot of it, and it's okay, at least in my opinion, if the dollar's dominance is reduced. I mean, in all the central banking circles, you hear people talking about a multipolar world. Well, a multipolar world means the ascent of other currencies in terms of their percentage of global GDP, like value flows. There's only two ways that they can ascend. Either they take a piece of the US dollar's pie, right? So the pie stays the same size, but they get a bigger piece, or the pie gets bigger. And you kind of almost like dilute the dollar's percentage of the pie, but it's not like the dollar loses because the pie is just getting bigger and there's more pie for other people to have, or other currencies to, like, does that make sense? Those are the two mechanistically. I don't know how else you could end up in a multipolar world, but it's a multipolar world is the direction things are going to go. And I mean, this is a multi-decadal shift. It's not like this stuff's going to happen tomorrow.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you guys. Like, I mean, it's going to take time, and everything still needs to be able to play out. I just still see the issue from, well, not so much issue, but the ability for me as just being a singularity person to circumnavigate some of these financial institutions to be able to push my wealth from one place to the next. I'm not talking about circumnavigating KYC or anything like that. I mean, still do it like full legally, but I also don't need to be able to interact with some of these players going forward, depending on how the technology actually is allowed to be able to roll out. And I just see that the only stopping point at this stage has sort of been like the US government, and nothing against US people by any means, but there's almost been a hold for the implementation of some of these processes for that very reason, to be able to continue on with their position of obviously dominance over the sector and market share as well.
No, I agree with you. I think it's unfortunate. If the U.S. And especially the SEC were at like a cocktail party, and you and I were talking over on the other side of the party, I'd be like, "You see that jerk over there? Like, I don't like him. Like, it's just ridiculous. I mean, everybody else has agreed and acknowledged, oh, this is an asset class, a currency. Um, it just happens to be in a digital format. It's not like this is the first time we've ever had new currencies. Okay, currency innovation has been occurring for thousands of years. This is like, it's really not that new of a thing. I mean, it goes all the way back to like when the Romans took over the Egyptians. They changed the currency, they changed the structure, they changed the whole monetary system and how it all worked. Like, everything. And then that's actually, ever since the Romans did that, Egypt's basically been a third world country. But it was better with the Egyptian monetary system. But I'm happy to expand on that because I think it's really fascinating. But yeah, I mean, this has happened many, many times. I don't understand and the longer the U.S. waits, I feel like they're shooting themselves. The U.S., I mean, I'm an American, we're shooting ourselves in the foot. Like, this is stupid. The dollar is a core to our international strength as a country. To not stay at the forefront, and be at the tip of the spear. I mean, and we're a country that's supposed to be known for innovation, but we're like stifling innovation. Did the same thing with drones. The FAA wouldn't make drone rules, This went on for years. Now all the drone companies, they're European. So there you go. I mean, that's what happens. Everybody in crypto's leaving the country. Like, I mean, I've even heard Brad Garlinghouse say the best advice he could give a crypto company is don't start in the US. Like, that's terrible, man.
To be able to speak
That's
to those
so.
changes in currencies and things like that have happened in the past and through history. I mean, almost every single change of currency back in the day was down to someone conquering that country or war. So hopefully it never comes to that.
Well, I've said this several times and I genuinely believe it. If we can transfer the world over to like a digital currency format and not have a world war, then this is one of these thankless things that nobody will ever recognize, right? Except some academic, and no one's going to read his paper anyway, decades from now. But if we can transfer the flip the global monetary infrastructure over to a digital system without having a global world war, then like our generation did something that's equivalent to threading the needle. I mean, and believe it or not, this stuff is, if done successfully, will probably save millions of lives. The thing is, it's hard to do this counterfactual thing because you don't know what would have happened, right? Say the Ukraine war expands and you end up in a whole situation. Okay, now, like, dude, I mean, people are already getting killed needlessly. That's not cool. if you expand this and then, like, say the BRICS nations team up against the US, and then, you know, what are you now, like, you got it dude, it could just, in China can try and, you know, show its flex its muscle, like, dude, it could turn into an absolute millions of people dying, like World War One and Two. Like, and all you got to do is just change the freaking money system. Everybody just agree. But that's not, that's way, you know, that's one of them easier said than done things. I mean, I think that the benefit that we have going in crypto is that the efficiency gains uh, make it profitable to adopt this new technology. So you might be able to encourage the countries and the banks, and the money service businesses, et cetera, to adopt the technology, uh, just based on self-interest and profitability and reducing cost. You know, that wasn't around during World War One and Two. But it took 2 world wars the last time we changed the monetary infrastructure over globally. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, and before that, I mean, historically, thousands of years of wars, one after the next, for similar ideals and representations of value, you know, being struggled over.
I think that's the reason why I'm so interested in this space as well. I mean, you know, not so much the money side of things; it's actually the technology, and like Karma said, like, I mean, if we can make this change into this like new, this new market realistically for the rest of the world to be able to, you know, actually interact with everyone across the planet, and maybe further outside the planet at some stage too. I mean, we've got the startings of a device as such, like technology, that could really, you know, levitate our like the human race as well. It's just hopefully they get to the point where they can start to either A, agree, or B, that if they want to fight it out for whatever reason, then so be it. But, you know, actually start making some, you know, leaps and bounds into the new era, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Um, I actually called Ripple way back in the day. I didn't expect anyone to answer, so I didn't know what to say. I thought I was going to get like a automated machine or something. And I was like, what you guys are doing is good for humanity. And I just hung up because I didn't know what the hell to say. And, but yeah, it is. And if we can see, the thing is, what I don't want to see, which I think I'm seeing, unfortunately, the US is a big node in the global monetary network, right? I mean, it's global reserve. By definition, it's the lowest common denominator. It's a major player. The dollar anyway. Sometimes if people don't have understanding and they're in a position like that, like say you're number one in your industry, you know, the US is the number one currency. I don't think that's in debate. You kind of want to defend, you can have a foolish tendency to defend yourself instead of moving on and adopting the new technology. I think that's how the US is behaving. This is foolish. What they should really do is recognize that if they open up the to this new technology, like we were just talking about a minute ago with the machine-to-machine payments, the network will get bigger, the pie will get bigger, right? The US already has a gigantic portion of the pie. Like, it's got the biggest slice. Okay. Just because you make the pie bigger doesn't mean the US still won't have the biggest slice, because the U.S. will still have the biggest slice. It's just their slice is going to get bigger. And other people's, other currencies' slices are going to get bigger too. And as a percentage change, percentage of the pie, yes, the U.S.'s might get sort of diluted. The dollar might get diluted down in terms of its percentage of global flows. Fine. The piece of pie is going to get bigger. The U.S. is still, the dollar is still going to be a dominant portion of the pie, like have the biggest slice of pie. It's when people, when I'm sorry, I say people because I don't know why, but it's when people get defensive and they almost like are self-defeating, which is how I think that the U.S. is behaving, in a self-defeating manner. Because the longer the U.S. Fights, the more the other countries are going to say, well, we're just going to grow the pie, but your slice can stay the same size. You don't get part of the growth, right? Pie's going to get bigger, but you're going to stay the same. So I mean, it's almost like if you can't beat them, join them, and you're not going to beat them. This technology is here to stay. And the government knows that. All the governments know that. That's why every central bank is looking at like CBDC and stuff. And these people aren't idiots. It's if they take the wrong approach or the wrong attitude to how to handle or manage the change, that's where you screw up. And I think the U.S. has been screwing up. And this has been over 10 years. We're on our third president with this crypto stuff, and we still don't even have laws. How ridiculous is that? Trillions of dollars and we still don't have laws? Come on now. That's crazy. Every other country has laws, yet the greatest country in the world can't make laws. I'm using air quotes. Like, come on.
I totally agree with you, Karma. Totally agree with you, man.
It's unfortunate and it's sad. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know what I'm not going to belabor the point, but it's unfortunate and it's sad. And I think it's harmful to the country's future to not, you know, you read the history books, right? And everybody talks about, oh, how industrious America was, and they're pushing forward, and they got innovation and railroads and steam, all this stuff, and electricity, and man, so much innovation, and Silicon Valley and the internet, and then like we hit crypto, and it's like, wait a sec, and like crypto and drones. It's like just the last, I don't know, 10 years. It's like, oh wait, something new? No, not in America. No, you take that somewhere else. And it's like, wait a second. Head scratch. I thought this was the place for innovation. It's like, oh yeah, but we got like government agencies. We're not going to make rules. Oh, so you mean I have to leave the country? Yeah, pretty much. But I thought this was the place for innovation. Well, not right now. It's terribly disappointing.
I suppose one good thing that has come out of this situation, though, as well, though, Karma, is because there's been a bit of a hold on some of this technology, probably pushing forward to where it should actually be at this present moment. It's given a lot of, you know, like people actually producing like products to be able to go out on this service when it does go live, and actually having a really good testing ground to be able to do that, because there's not so much. I mean, when we're talking about, trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars, if, this technology does go forward, it's giving everyone a really good opportunity to be able to test this on a bit of a smaller scale to be able to get it right before it goes to the public too. So, I mean, the innovation side of things is definitely going forward, and that's super exciting to be able to see.
Well, I'll agree with you there. I mean, like when I went to Apex and when I went to the Interledger Summit, nobody is dude. There's so much innovation and work that's being done. I mean, it's just all over the place. Like so much progress. It just it's. I don't understand why the U.S. government is. I mean, it was well, it was a really nice thing. I mean, because obviously crypto is global. So like Interledger, just the population of attendees were from all corners of the world, everywhere. Maybe Africa had a slightly higher uh, presence than other continents, but there was people from everywhere. And the that's a good thing because I mean these systems are inherently global, so like obviously you got to have people from everywhere. I don't know where I was going with that, but I don't understand why the U.S. is not like there's going to be innovation in other countries. It's a global industry, right? So there's going to be country specific, culture specific. Like some applications could be designed in one way and work perfect in this culture, and they just wouldn't fly in another culture, right? So you got to have a different company develop a different app that matches this other culture's norms, right? So there's going to be innovation across all these different countries and regions of the world. Um, I mean, like you couldn't go sell a Chinese app in America. Like nobody could read it. You know, how are you going to even process it? Can't read. Nobody reads Chinese in America. I know one guy. Um, and so you know, innovation's going to happen everywhere. But I don't understand the U.S. government. The why the You can't tell I'm frustrated by it. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make the behavior doesn't make sense.
I'm interested to see if we will see any clarity at all. That the whole world is, that they just adapt without America. I don't know. It's taking so long time now.
Well, like I mean, I understand, like you know, the U.S. government's point of view, and like I was saying before, like market share and things like that. I mean, there is a big possibility that this all ends up in a big heap. But before anyone's prepared to be able to say they're going to lose on this, especially when it comes to a change of technology, there will be more conflict before that actually happens, because no one wants to be able to say that they lost or they did the wrong thing, and it's not just a matter of pride. That's also a well, I suppose it realistically is a matter of pride when you put it down to it as well. And it's not because, you know, citizens of a country go and decide to be able to, you know, be complacent with the way that things are happening. It's just that sometimes the political beast is just too big for, you know, just even the common man to be able to get in front of as well. So, you know, I think we just have to be able to continue looking at the innovation side of things and just hope for the best that you know, regulators and you know, the new direction that the world seems to be like pushing towards is done in the right way. Whether, you know, we push to this really green economy and all this kind of stuff. I mean, I think a little bit of that's pretty much a farce at the end of the day. But if we can make this place better for everyone, I think that's a really positive thing. It's just I hope that they decide to be able to do it for the people and not just for a power grab as well. So
No, that's why the name here is Internet of Value, because if you improve the network, it doesn't matter if I like you or I hate you. If we're part of the same network, you improve, you get better, and I get better. Like everybody wins if you improve the network. It doesn't matter who you are, whether you're good or bad, everybody wins. That's why this Internet of Value thing is such a big deal, in my opinion, anyhow. but I think I can back that up if anybody wanted to challenge me on it.
Welcome, Okasha, man. You haven't gotten to speak yet. If you'd like to interject, or if you have anything you'd like to speak on, if you want to change the subject. There, Kasha.
I think one of the things going on with the U.S. is that, it's kind of like that school bully where, he's used to getting his way, he's used to intimidating people and pushing people around. And, no matter how tough you are, there's always going to be somebody out there that's going to be able to step up and take you. And I think what it is with the U.S. is like, first of all, they're corrupt and it's a good old boy system and they're used to getting their way and they got power and they probably believe that nobody else can stop them. And the rest of the world has everything to gain with this technology while the US has everything to lose. And Wall Street in that sense is pushing back, and the technology is that one thing that is stepping up to that is going to take them. And their ego and their past is not allowing them to see the forest through the trees so that they would make the best decisions. I think they're clouded by their power.
Yeah, thank you, Def. I did have one thing, and then I'll jump back off because I'm in the middle of something. But I think a lot of you are kind of missing the point here, in that when Karma says, "Man, I can't understand why they're kind of so counterintuitive to what you would expect," is that at the end of the day, the government is not really in the mindset of protecting the people and doing what's best for the people at large, right? Governments have one thing that they are really concerned with, and it's maintaining power. That is their primary thought process, is to maintain power. And so with all of these changing dynamics, they see themselves losing power. So they'd rather have power than they'd have efficiencies and all these other things that we would want. So I think that when you say I don't understand, I think from my perspective, I understand it well. It's a gasp at trying to hold on to authority and power, and people come second to that. So yeah, I'll go back to listening, but
I agree with you, but I'd argue, like I said just a minute ago, they're being foolish. If they want to maintain power, they should embrace the change, let the entire pie grow, maintain their dominant slice, right? It's just going to be a bigger pie, so it'll be a bigger slice. But that's not the strategy. The weak-minded strategy is, no, 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 we can't change. No, like, right? And that's kind of what they've done. And I just think that's the strategy that ultimately ends up losing. Is, unfortunately, I mean, this can take decades, but ultimately that no, no, no strategy ends up losing. I mean, you gotta change with the times. You gotta keep up. You want to stay at the tip of the spear, be at the forefront, like be innovative. Like, this is the American story. It's just, we're just not doing it now without regulation. It's almost like putting your foot on someone's head when they're in the swimming pool. They're just trying to swim, right? You keep pushing them underwater. And we did this with the drone industry, and we're doing it again with the crypto industry. It's not good. It's not the American story. It's the antithesis
I
of the
think
American.
there's so much corruption and things going on, and they need this kind of corruption to benefit all their needs all the time. So once we adopt over, they won't have the ability to keep up with all this corruption and things like that. So yeah. But once we are over, it's said and done forever. So it will be nice to have a real world finally again.
Well, let's look at the real world. Ethereum, Switzerland. Vitsi, Netherlands, I believe. BitDomp, I'm not sure where, but he's in Europe. GateHub, England. Finbos with Interledger, South Africa. The elephant guy, Ripple Int, New Zealand. Nobody's in America. I mean, you don't have to be a rocket scientist here. Just look at the absolute facts. Nobody's in America. The only people in America are DCG and Ripple. And I guess ICE and Fidelity, if you count them. But they can't do any operations because there's no regulation. So really take them off the table. So you've got Ripple and DCG. And most of DCG's investments are outside of America. Like, come on. Like, this is just the way it is. Not cool, but it is what it is. Like, that's that.
Algorand is out of MIT.
MIT has had a big influence on several projects in crypto. But where are they domiciled? I don't know the answer. I'm asking.
That's a good question, and I don't have an answer for it.
Well, to attest to some of the changes that are starting at the moment, though, I mean, you're starting to be able to get Fed doing like the Fed now, like they're starting to be able to do a 12-week process on seeing if running some digital currencies will actually work for them and things like that. So then you come over here to Australia as well. I mean, we've got Novartis starting to be able to actually get like a digital currency that's actually running on Ripple as well. So I think that's definitely going to be a positive for the future. You've also got National Bank of Australia, National Australia Bank, which is starting to be able to deal with digital currencies as well. So there is definitely some moving going on, and we've spoken about this before. You usually find that there's small countries out there that will be like testing grounds for them, like say, Bhutan and things like that are already running on, certain processes from certain companies. And then you start getting to a larger scale. And I mean, Australia's always been a testing ground for these things too. We're starting to be able to see movement that may push us forward into, this new age that we're looking for too. So, I mean, hopefully they keep up with it and everything runs smoothly. I mean, there's been very, very little downtime on the XRPL. So, and when I say little, I mean, you might have 5 minutes here and 5 minutes there, but the time clock on everything's still attached to it at that present time. So I think that's a really good positive. And like it's going to take time for them to be able to make their changes, but I don't see there being an opportunity for everything just to go right. That's it. We're making this big change, unless of course there's some kind of conflict or some kind of black swan event that actually makes us do that change as well. So we're just little by little. If everyone the rest of the world can start proving that some of these processes does work, and then the US is like, well, man, it's been tested out in all these other countries. It seems to work. Maybe we should actually, jump in with a bit more than just like one pinky toe into the cold water, if that sort of makes sense.
Well, two things. One, Australia is a test bed for the U.S. Two, did you see the the bankers testing this 12-week CBDC test?
Yep.
So
Yeah.
And
on
and that's the Fed, right? Fed Now, which is Volante Technologies, which is also directly integrated to RippleNet.
Yeah, there's a guy, actually, he's been on this chat before, who took a company public over in Australia for health records. And he used to, before that, he did some work for the US DoD. And, he said that essentially they used the Australian market, like healthcare system, as a test. This is like digitizing health records. Before they brought it over to the U.S. market. So there's and he said there's like that's like intentional. And then, yeah, I didn't get to read the whole thing. I skimmed a portion of it. Did you see the whole thing there, Death, on the test, the CBDC test with the 12, like, I'm assuming it's like the prime brokers type of thing?
I think Endless Endeavors is coming up. I think he wants to speak about it. Say that again, though. Sorry, come.
Well, you know how you have prime brokers, like there's certain banks that are required to buy treasuries. So like if the treasury wants to issue bonds, they're going to be purchased. I'm wondering if the 12, I forget how many primary brokers there are, or whatever you call it. I think it's primary brokers. I'm wondering if it's the same people that are the primary brokers that are required to buy the Fed that are doing this test for CBDC, which would imply that they could possibly make a rule that says these guys have to buy the CBDC if it's issued.
I don't know if it's 12. I know
Thinking.
12 weeks. Let me look it up though. Give me 1 sec.
Yeah, it was a 12-week program for them to be able to start running that series. So hopefully they get somewhere with it.
Oh, that's right. It was 12 weeks. They didn't say how many banks. I could see it being reasonable that they would do the test with the prime brokers because they're going to be, I don't know. Endless, did you want to speak up? Sorry.
Hey, hello everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Welcome up.
Hey, yeah. I just wanted to share some news, and I know I can't really share if I'm not a speaker. So, the Digital Pound Foundation wrote an article about the I guess the financial institutions that are gonna partake in the New York Fed's 12-week digital dollar. I posted it to the top of the space, so if you guys want to just look over it. And me personally, as one of the co-founders of a New York State fintech, it's really good news to finally see some major action coming out of New York because it's been a little rocky really trying to maneuver in this field with all the regulations not being handled properly.
I didn't realize that was you at first, NY Crypto. But that's cool, man. I thank you, and I thank you for joining us on your business account. I agree, man. The non-stagnant regulation and clear road is dampened a lot of innovation.
Yeah, you don't want to speak to a little bit more about that, Endless, or I think it'd be really good for people to sort of get some of the, like an idea of the blockades that you guys run up against, especially when it comes to dealing with some of these regulations in New York as well.
Sure, give me a quick second.
I'm trying to look up who the primary brokers.
So you got Citibank, HSBC Holdings, Mastercard, Wells Fargo, and that's a couple of the list. But they said it's a lot of them. They just said large banks.
Yeah, talking about something different.
Oh.
And once again, those large banks as well. I mean, there is actual personal agreements between different countries and those large banks too. I'm pretty sure a couple of those are actually connected to Canada's markets, and I think one or two of them are even attached to Australia's markets as well. So whether that goes, with their partnerships on the outside of the US as well, it'd be very interesting.
Yeah, BNY Mellon is also one of them.
Primary dealers is what I'm thinking of, not brokers. Primary dealers.
Yeah, they'll be issuing tokens and settling transactions through simulated central banks on distributed ledger technology. Citi, TD Bank, PNC. This is all the this is all the big financial institutions in the world.
Yeah, it's going to be the who's who, man. That's what it's got to be. That's what it's got to be.
And funnily enough, attached to that as well, I mean, you go back to Project Dunbar as well. I mean, that was actually still based in some of Australia's national banks as well. So, I mean, they're almost doing the same thing, but just on a US scale.
I'm surprised somebody knows about Project Dunbar.
I think you'd be surprised what I know about Karma. Just kidding, man.
Yeah, I also posted a couple videos of it.
I'm always surprised by the people that come in here, and I love it. Like, I love it. You can't have these kind of conversations elsewhere.
Well, isn't this the point of like what you'd almost classify as like real-time news? Like, you know, these conversations from all over the world that brings people together down to like what they believe is important subject matter, and we're all prepared to be able to share our information. I mean that if that's not technological advancement, I don't know what is.
Yeah, I could totally agree. I think it's great. I mean, it's really outside of going to a physical conference, which has all sorts of expenses associated with it, time and money as well, from both the host and the attendees' perspective. Like, yeah, these I like this format with these spaces. The forums and everything are good. Typing on Twitter and like tweeting, I think, is kind of stupid. I don't like that, but whatever. But the forums, you can at least like have a long form, like compound point, you know, like A, B, C equal D. Um, and you can't really do that on Twitter. But with these conversational type of format, I think it's good. At least for me, I enjoy it.
I enjoy it very much so. Yeah, we wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for the conversations and the different ideals that we get to view and hear about every single day that really can change and open the horizons. As they say, sometimes when you close one door, it opens another. Um, it's awesome, to say the least. We're coming up though. We got about 10 more minutes, 9 more minutes before we hit that 5 o'clock mark. So we'll probably close it up in 5 or 6 minutes or so. If anybody has any last comments or anything that they'd like to bring up, question wise, please feel free to. And if I think we'll end in a couple minutes.
Well,
You
I'd
got
like
any?
more about the digital dollar and whatever anybody knows about this 12-week sandbox, if you will. Whatever they're calling it. Trial. I don't know. Testing.
You got anything fresh for us, analysts? Or
Yeah. Hey, sorry about that. I was waiting for some time to talk. I'm definitely going to be paying attention to this 12-week pilot because I've just been waiting for so long to see some type of traction from the big boys. So with that pilot going down, I think it's going to be beneficial for everybody that's been kind of nervous to participate in any kind of like fintech company. But at the moment, I don't have any like concrete news. I would have to double check. Maybe some newsletters and some subscriptions that I have that I've signed up to. But at the moment, that's the only news that I have. So that's why I shared it. I thought it was pretty impressive.
Yeah, I mean, BNY Mellon is 25% of the world's assets under management, and they're partaking in this. There's going to be tokenization of assets and settling of transactions on distributed ledgers. That means they're creating their own networks and communicating in a tokenized manner. And that's like looked like majority of the banks or financial institutions in the United States. Just like what you said before, Alex, this is if they're doing it, if they say they're doing it, it's done. And so it's nice to say that it's finally here. In some sense, of been waiting for them to do something in this aspect of at least get the financial system somewhat more prepared for the switch over. And it makes sense, especially with ISO 20022 becoming more of a de facto standard. You know, bringing everybody on board to the same distributed ledger systems would by default make it much easier for people to have maintain this standard, this entities to maintain this standard in their financial institutions and banking means. So it's just good to see that it's finally happening.
I think
Well,
the
just that.
biggest impediment. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to attest to that as well, Death. I mean, like these humongous financial institutions that are starting to be able to, whether they're doing, pilots or testing or whatever you want to be able to call it, they're now coming to the forefront saying, well, okay, well, there is change happening, and whether the government likes it or not, we need to be able to test out for the best technology that we can find out there that suits our purposes. Now, I know for a fact that they're leveraging the private sector to be able to come up with some of these processes, because unfortunately, like, banks are doing really good at doing certain things, but they're also not very good at creating new processes such as these. They're very good at implementing the best processes that they can find out there, and that's the reason why they take up, like, once something goes public, that they take up a large share of that company. And sometimes they do that through pressure from the very start, saying, okay, well, we're not going to let you play until you give us what we want. But I think now, because the fintech industry has sort of stood up for itself and said, okay, listen, we're happy to be able to partner with you guys, but we're not going to just give you this technology. This is our technology. If you want to be able to use it, then, you're going to be able to get much better returns on your services, faster processing, all these fantastic things. So they're at that point now going, okay, well, listen, like, if we can't beat them, we're going to join them. And I just think that that's so fantastic.
Well, fundamentally, commercial banks, they don't run the payment system. They end up running the payment system, but it's not their business model. It's the central bank that runs the payment system. So, I mean, if you get like super big picture, like the commercial banks really shouldn't care unless they're going to lose a profit center, because they're in practicality they are running the payment system, but that's not their business model. Their business model is fractional reserve banking and loans. That's the business model, not running the payment system.
So
So
I have a quick point that I wanna ask. I was just reading over the article, and it seems like if they're participating in the digital dollar through the Federal Reserve, so it seems like the Federal Reserve might be actually coming out with a CBDC or their own stable coin, and allowing these financial institutions to use it and kind of do dummy transactions and dummy contracts, and I guess to see how it goes. Wouldn't that be kind of how the chain reaction goes? If they're gonna test the digital dollar, the dollar would come from the Federal Reserve, and then it would go to Mastercard, Bank of America. Correct? That's how the process would go. No.
Well, the central bank digital currency maybe would come from the Fed and then go to a bank that would hold it on their balance sheet and then produce a stable coin or a USDC possibly. But we're right at that mark. Karma, you go ahead, man. You speak, and then we're gonna close it.
okay, yeah, I did a video on this a year or so ago, on the Karma Coverage YouTube channel, um, which actually has some early ledger scale videos on it before ledger scale existed. The thing is, the okay, so when the central bank issues the CBDC, that becomes a liability on the central bank's balance sheet. It's called a balance sheet because it has to balance. So there has to be some sort of asset added, right? So the bank has to take quote unquote qualified assets. So treasuries would probably be the best thing. I'll just stop there for now. So the bank that is going to receive the CBDC gives the Fed treasuries. So here's $1 million in treasuries. Okay, thanks. We'll give the Fed will give the bank $1 million in CBDC. Right. So everything balances out. Right. On the commercial bank's balance sheet, they subtracted, they debited $1 million of treasury, they credited $1 million of CBDC. Balance sheet stays the same. Cool. Now
I don't mean. Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. I gotta head out right at that 5 o'clock mark. I'm sorry, but you should post the video though for sure, so everybody could give it a watch. Of course, nothing tonight was talked about was financial advice, guys. Panelist views do not necessarily represent those of ledgerscale. We host these spaces Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, starting at 3:30 Eastern Standard Time. And on Wednesday, we host our Focus Topic Space at 5 to 6 Eastern Standard Time. And I hope to see everybody here tomorrow, 3:30 Eastern Standard Time. And I hope everybody has a good rest of the night. I'll be on later